does anybody feel or get this kind of sense of overwhelm sometimes? There's so much happening. Am I supposed to keep up with this stuff? Like, what am I supposed to even know about? What about a sense of uncertainty about the future? Does anybody have that? Where's it all going? Maybe a little sense of anxiety. Is anybody worried a little bit? You know who you can talk to about that? ChatGPT. Confide in ChatGPT. So my promise to you, we're going to focus specifically on the things that actually matter in growing our business. All right, so way back in 2023, I did the same thing. I started with a promise, and I said that I would give you a better understanding of a technology that will benefit you and your company for years to come. And at this point, there are benefits that we've all had, and AI isn't going away. Can we agree that AI will have some benefits, have some other problems, will have some benefits to us for years to come? And there were other things at that same time. Does anybody remember something called the metaverse? Remember that? NFTs? Remember NFTs? Remember crypto? Blockchain? All these blockchain startups? AI, this wasn't going to be hype. This was going to be real. This is something that was going to stick with us. But it wouldn't be the first time in history that there was a lot of hype. So you can see this guy, Herb, I don't even know who this guy is, but he was a Nobel Prize winner. Machines will be capable, you can almost hear his voice. Machines will be capable within 20 years of doing any work that a man can do. This is the quote we use. Now, actually, just in he said that in 1960. In 1980, was he right? 2000, 2020, machines have not reached this point. There was a guy from Baltimore, though, because we were in Baltimore, and he said, believe nothing you hear and only half of what you see. Edgar Allan Poe, Baltimore guy. So if we're going to really find the high leverage use cases of AI, we kind of have to focus on the truth of AI. What is it actually doing? We're going to use the tool better if we understand how it actually works. So when you're using AI, does anybody get a chance, when you type something in, some real important, little heady, and it does that like little pulsing thing? What do we get the sense that it's doing? It's thinking. Oh yeah, please. All right? And when it spits something back at you and it says, that is such a great idea. You know what does that? It makes you feel validated. All those wonderful things, you confide in it, gives you a little lift. Feels like there's real meaning behind everything, right? And sometimes it seems like downright magic, doesn't it? That you have this thing in your pocket that can answer all of your questions, not just give you the information. You used to just be able to Google it, but now you can go back at it. You can ask it questions. You can watch videos. You can make yourself happy. You can make yourself sad. You can entertain yourself. You can educate yourself, all from this little piece of technology in your pocket. It's amazing. Feels like magic. But we got to talk about how it works. And when we're talking about how it works, we're talking in the context of generative AI. So AI that generates stuff. It generates text like ChatGPT. It generates imagery or videos. So we're going to play a little game, a simplified version of how AI works. So if I say the word once, what is the next word that comes to mind? If I say once, once upon. Once, twice, once you. There's a lot of different ways, a lot of words that could follow once, but upon is a really common one. So if we went down that path and we said once upon, what would the next word be? And then once upon, oh, there's two options. Once upon a time, of course, and then once upon a midnight. Oh, we were in Baltimore. Edgar Allan Poe, once upon a midnight dreary. And this is what AI is fundamentally doing. It is just producing the next word after a sequence of words. So the thing about English is there's 40,000 words. And if we wanted to build, theoretically, this model to produce the next word, we might analyze all of written text and create all of the words that typically follow a word like once. What is statistically the next word? We could track these statistics. Given once upon, what's the third word? We could track these statistics. We could do this. The problem is that once you get to just a set of 3 words, it's 60 trillion relationships. So we can't really do it like that. So the magic of AI is that we take this 1950s technology called neural networks. Sounds really smart, right? There were just little computational models that were designed in a way that we think the brain works. We don't know how the brain actually works. Then we take today's computing power, the availability of the internet, that all of written text, all books, podcasts, all of Reddit, it's all online now, so we have amazing training data. And we build this increasingly accurate mathematical model of us. It is a reflection of us, designed to produce the next word in the sequence. So the reality is that there is no thinking. It's a math problem. It just produces the outcome with some randomness built in. There is no meaning. When it made us feel good, that was us making us feel good. That was statistical output. It said, ChatGPT made me feel so good. It was actually me who read that, interpreted it, and put that in my own mind. And there is no magic. So the fundamental truth of AI is that it is trained on us. It is an average of us. And what's really interesting about that is that it creates a situation where if you want to learn about something like dual transformation or any topic, you can go from 0 to competent in record time. You can raise your floor. But you might want to be careful about leaning on it for creativity and innovation, because it can only go so far. It can't really go beyond the edge of what we as humans have put out there already. Secondly, it's really smart and confident. Doesn't it sound really smart? It does hallucinate. It does have biases. The things that it is trained on inherently have biases. It has biases because of the things that we have told it, because it keeps track of everything that we've told it before. So it can create a little bit of an issue with our own thinking and our own strategy. And most important for any leader, any business owners, is that AI is the most powerful tool that we have had available in our lifetime apart from our actual brain. And that it can create more distractions for you than you have ever imagined. It can open thousands of doors. So if you aren't clear on what you want, like Logan and Matt were talking about, if you aren't super clear on what you want, it can actually help you go 1,000 miles an hour in the wrong direction. So we want to be careful about it. I want you, after this presentation, to think about AI in terms of just laser focus and execution. So most AI talks actually start off down here, right? They tell you about the tools that the different people in your business can use, and maybe you go back and you tell them about it. But where are all the highest leverage decisions made? If the CEO has clarity, if we have the right people, where are all the highest leverage decisions in that org chart that Charity was talking about? Any ideas? At the top. Because everything that goes on at the top ripples throughout the organization. If we think of our businesses as a ship sailing toward that bright future that we have envisioned, who is the best person on that ship to endow with a superpower? The captain of the ship. Clarity, navigation. So this is the acronym that I use to help me keep my focus on what actually matters with AI. So that C is clarity, which already got some talk today. Every AI talk should begin with the OG AI, authentic intelligence. Our intelligence. So we talked about vision. It's January 2029. It's 3 years from now. Where are we if everything goes exactly the way we had hoped in the way of dual transformation? How much revenue are we making in Transformation B? Where is it coming from? Who are the whales? Do we have any whales? Who are they? How much do they pay? Who are the people that I needed on the team? Who are the people that are on the team now that maybe aren't a good fit. They're not ready for this ride. And then we think about transformation B and we say, okay, well, if I'm going to get a whale, if I have a few of them, when do I get the first one? Does it happen in 2028 or 2027? You start thinking about it, okay, if this is such a critical part of our future, when does that happen? When's the best time to do something that you know is critical? First best time was yesterday. Second best time is right now. So you might think, what has to be true in 2026 to make that 2029 possible? That we started transformation B. That how many whales did we get? We got that first whale. Did we get him in December of 2026? Q4? Did we get him in Q3? Should we just say, let's work to get the first one right now so we can learn everything that we need to do to set ourselves up for that 2029? This is all really important because whether it's AI or whether it's any technology, I have no idea what's going to come 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 years from now. But all of the power of technology and all of the power of artificial intelligence, its power rests specifically on your actual authentic intelligence. All of it depends on you. So, if we're going to do something that undeniably in a transformation, we are doing things that we have never done before, right? We're transforming a company. How many people are masters of transformation have done this? Right? And what is the best first step? What are the highest leverage moves we can make on the way to doing something we have never done before? Does anybody have an idea of what is the highest leverage move?
Hire somebody who's done it before.
Hire someone, that's part of it. And there's a reason. Why is it? Expertise, because we're going to learn from them, right? See, some people, especially when we're young in our business careers, we go charging into it, like, we're going to do it. And we have no clarity and no focus and no idea, no to-do list, and have no idea what's going to come next. So the highest leverage thing that we can do is learn. We can learn how to do it. It actually comes later. How is that not something that we all do a little bit younger? Now, once we become a little more mature, I should read the book on dual transformation. I should actually read up on this. I should read about the business. I should learn from people who have run a successful version of whatever transformation is going to be for me. So learning. There's another high leverage piece, sharing. Once I learn it, how can I share that with the people on my team? How can I communicate it? The highest leverage things that we can do with AI are learning, sharing, and communication. So in record time, I can go from 0 to competent. So you guys have probably all done this. What in the world is dual transformation? So this is ChatGPT. I'm sure you've all seen this interface. And what I love about ChatGPT is yes, it'll give me the information. But I can talk back to it. I can't talk back to a book. Sometimes I'm reading Jim Collins, really smart guy, good to great. Traction mentions Jim Collins a whole lot. But sometimes it says, I don't know. Peter Drucker, old school, super smart business guy. But I can't talk to a book. But I can say, hey, ChatGPT, explain like I'm 5. Classic Reddit thing, explain like I'm 5. Break it down super simple. It's like, okay, you have a lemonade stand. And you feel like lemonade isn't going to be so popular, so you want to start a popsicle stand. All right, and you put your resources, you don't forget your resources in the lemonade stand. Right? So I'm like, okay, all right, I get that. Now tell me about the book. What's the name of the author, by the way? Yeah, there's 3 of them. Who's the big one? What is it? Scott something? All right, cool. All right, give me a chapter summary. I don't know if anyone else is like me. Before I watch a movie, I need the plot synopsis. Give me a little something to wrap everything around, otherwise I get too lost in the weeds. So give me that chapter summary. Does anybody ever use this little tool right here, that little microphone? Does anybody use that microphone? Love that microphone. Why? Because you don't have to be smart anymore. You can just dump it out of your brain. So an example of me asking a question, maybe somewhat related to dual transformation.
I run a historically successful city magazine, working to start building out our 3-year vision for digital. What might I do over the next 3 years to start making that transition?
And so I can just brain dump it. Amazing, because at some point, I end up just having a conversation about it. Now, the button isn't here because I cut the video too early. There's another button right here, and it's a voice chat. Has anybody used the voice chat with ChatGPT? This is where it gets cool, because I was on a 3-hour drive to Boston talking to ChatGPT over the car phone.
What should I do with my best
What should I
sales
do with my
staff?
best sales
I have
staff?
a couple of people on the team who are really above and beyond compared to the rest of the team, which is relatively new to the role. How should I allocate them? Should they be focused on the existing business or the business that I'm trying to grow?
You don't want to cannibalize what's keeping the lights on, but you also can't put your MVPs in a silo forever. Here's the move. Split the assignment intentionally. Keep them anchored in the core revenue driving business, because that's your current engine, but carve out a percentage of their time to work on the digital growth side.
So that was ChatGPT's. Now, ChatGPT by voice chat is actually a little less smart than regular ChatGPT. I think there's more processing power. It has to do it in real time. But I was curious about that question too. That's why it's already in the presentation. It's like, if I have 5 salespeople and one's an all-star, where do they go? Are they transformation A, B? Is that a time split? Can you have 2 different focuses? Is that going to ruin both of them? I don't know, something to think through with ChatGPT. So I thought about that to no end, and then I also thought about my own vision for Broad Street. And in the last 2 months, a personal example is that I put together a document that outlines specifically the vision, principles, and orientation for anybody that's on our team and anybody that's going to partner with us. Because I thought if I could put together a document that had enough clarity all in one place that I wouldn't have to repeat it and probably be wrong some of those times. So that's actually in the Google Drive that I put. If you wanted to get a sense of how I went about it, I did the origin story. I talked about our core values. I talked about what I want of the people on the team, how there's a certain sense of personal growth and development that's a part of our culture. And it goes on for about 40 pages, so you don't have to read the whole thing, but you get the idea. It talks about the flywheel, or like our best products and why they're important. That's really powerful. Just think about the alignment that you can get with a stated vision. Some companies don't even have a vision apart from making more money. That's a dangerous place to be. You should have a mission and a purpose for existence and make money as a cleverly designed side effect. So in all of ChatGPT's wisdom, I'm like, ChatGPT, listen, you read all the books. You read all of the business books. You got all the stuff. I read a lot of business books. Maybe I'm wasting my time. I said, maybe you can give me the cliff notes. I said, ChatGPT, in all of your infinite wisdom, can you just summarize all of business philosophy in one sentence for me? Because if I just knew that one thing, then I wouldn't have to read any of the business books, right? And it said, it was thinking, I'm like, oh shit, it's gonna be a good one. It said, create more value than you capture. And I almost fell out of my chair. It's so simple. I create so much value. I serve someone, and I take a little something in return. Duh. So one of the highest leverage things that you can do, so easy, will take 5 minutes, talk about learning, sharing, communication, is just create a channel. How many people have Slack or Teams? Just create a channel called Awesome AI, where everybody can share the cool AI tools they found, and we can cross-pollinate. Easy stuff. So that's what it looks like at Broad Street, and you can see the first thing that I mentioned was this thing called Super Whisper. I think now it's just called Flow or Whisper, and you can just hit a hotkey on your Mac and talk just like you would talk to ChatGPT. Ever get an email and you're like, okay, I know what I want to say, but it's going to take me a while to write it out? Then I can just talk and it'll write all that into the email body, right? In any application, doesn't matter. So it sits right on your Mac. Next one is kind of important. Now, has anybody ever had somebody on the team that left and they took a lot of company knowledge with them? Anybody ever had that experience? How hard that was, how devastating it was? Does anybody have something on the team today where if you were to reach into your pocket, pull out your phone, you got an email from that person, subject line, it's been a wild ride, where your heart would just fall through the floor? How much information do they have? Like, we loved working with them, but how much information do they have? Now, a lot of us are smaller businesses. I had an executive assistant who knew everything about the company. So I asked them, hey, listen, just for the last couple of weeks, can you just write down in a short document, just jot down all of the stuff you do around here? I know it's a lot, but can you just write down, and no employee who's about to leave has any qualms about writing down all of the things that they do around here, right? So I was like, write all of that down, and that's what she did. This is her actual document. Said, okay, for conferences we do this, office, culture, events, webinars, and there's things listed there. So then I went to ChatGPT. I was like, all right, listen. My assistant is leaving, right? Based on this, can you construct an agenda for an exit interview where I can do as much knowledge capture as I possibly can? And then what it produced was about 20 different categories with 5 different questions under each one. I scheduled a 90-minute exit interview. It was 3 hours long. I mean, she's going to leave anyway, so just keep her past 5 or whatever. So then what I did is I took all of this, I got the content of that interview, which is a 3-hour interview, audio transcription, and I created what is called a custom GPT. So you click Explore GPTs, create up there. Claude has a version of it. Does anybody use custom GPTs? And I put that into custom GPT, and I said, you are a virtual executive assistant. You never use the names of anything that you found in here. Here is a bunch of files related to your job, including that interview. And I created this thing that I called EA.AI, because I knew that onboarding the next person could happen in record time if I was able to do this right. And I could ask it questions, or the new EA could ask you questions like, hey, what are Kenny's travel preferences? You know when you have someone new who works very closely with you, and how long does it take for that person to ramp up? It could be months. So anything that old EA did that we had documented, which we probably did or we talked about, was in this list. And also when you're interviewing and someone says, well, tell me about the role. What are the things I'd be doing on a daily basis? I go, give me a list of the top 10 duties as Kenny's EA, and it produced a list of them. I brought that to the interview, the final interview. So I made the hire, and that person, Alyssa, was onboarded in record time. On Monday, went through the onboarding checklist. On Wednesday, already booked my travel here. And I didn't do anything. Apart from saying, okay, I'm good to go to JFK, because normally I fly to Newark. That was it. Record time, and then she uses it as well. So there are a lot of questions that I'm not answering that she can go right to EA.AI for. So that is some real leverage. But now we got to get into execution, right? So when it comes to actually doing the work of the business, along those lines, Charity was talking about how when you come into 5280 and nobody has a job title, if nobody has a job title, there's a good chance nobody's role is actually documented, right? Does anybody have documented processes that aren't documented that are in people's heads? Right? Some of us do. Does anybody want to admit it? Raise your hand. I do. Sure. Absolutely. So with the voice chat, you can just go ahead and dump everything into ChatGPT. And so I had a new advertiser at Red Bank Green. And this is basically, I verbally dictated our SOP. I talked about why we're different. I talked about our weekly, monthly, and quarterly responsibilities. There we go. First week checklist, second week checklist, daily checklist, weekly, monthly. This is what the role looks like. Great. Because when I hire a new one, it's all documented. Has anybody ever had a project that they put a lot of time and money into? It could be something you were developing, maybe something in Transformation B. And after all of this time and effort, it didn't come out the way you had hoped. Has anybody had that experience? Even in your personal life. You say, I want my kitchen, you told the contractor, I want my kitchen to look like this. You might have drawn it out, maybe it was all planned. And then by the time the foreman came in and it was related from the contractor to the foreman to the subcontractors, to subcontractor the B team at the subcontractor, who wasn't even supposed to be doing that job. How does it come out? Right? One of the most powerful things we can do is communication. So when we're building our products, anybody have an idea of what this is? Absolutely not, right? But I did upload it to ChatGPT. And it said, this sketch appears to be a mock-up of a user interface for an advertiser order or campaign submission form. That's pretty good, ChatGPT. I gave it no other context. The New York State Press Association was asking me to build this thing where like agencies could buy across a bunch of different publishers. I was like, and it's supposed to look like this? I was literally drawing it on the call. And they're like, that's it, kinda. So I upload the ChatGPT, and I'm like, cool, let me add a little more context. I describe exactly how it's supposed to work. Right? And then what ChatGPT does is it produces a specification. Because as a software developer, I will tell you that things go wrong when stuff is poorly defined. And a lot of times we get so excited about a project, we tell a developer or a project manager what's supposed to happen, and stuff is going to get lost in the cracks. The best note taker is going to lose some stuff. So being able to create a watertight specification, even the most watertight specification will allow some water leakage. So we want to make it as tight as we possibly can. Then we can hand that off to our developer. But first, we might want to create a prototype for anything that we're going to build. It could be a new page on the site. If we're really going to lean into newsletters, for example, maybe we don't just want to use the stock newsletter sign-up widgets that we can get for free on WordPress or whatever platform it is. Maybe we want to build something new from the ground up. So I took that specification and I gave it to a tool called Replit. I could have done this in ChatGPT. There's different tools that have different strengths. But I gave that. You can see I uploaded a drawing and gave it the spec, and it actually built the thing. Now, 3 years ago in Baltimore, it was writing code, but it wasn't code that I'd even find acceptable if it was an overseas developer who had recently learned and cost like $10 an hour. But now AI can write code that as someone who thinks they're a pretty talented software engineer, now it can write code that the very best engineers can write. But you also have to get your specification right with ChatGPT. So it built out the interface. It's not functional. But then we get to the actual development. Does anybody have a dedicated developer or software person? So when I relaunched Red Bank Green, I was really proud of the fact that I had rebuilt Red Bank Green. I built in all these custom features, and what would probably cost the average publisher like $50,000, I did it for like $5,000 in 6 weeks. I was pretty proud of that. But recently I was thinking, Red Bank Green really needs a navigation bar. I was thinking we didn't need them anymore. And I was looking at a buddy's site. He runs Arlington Now, Scott Broadbeck, super smart publisher. And I was like, I really like his navigation bar. It's clean, it's got all the right content. I was like, maybe I could have one built for us. And then I got appointed developer to it. I was like, wait, you know what? I took a screenshot of Arlington Now, and I dropped it into Claude Code. If you have a web person and they don't know about Claude Code and they're not using AI dev tools, it's kind of a red flag. Because as leaders of businesses, we're generalists. We can't be good at everything. We hire our people to be good at their individual specialty. So if the person that they specialize in building the stuff for our company doesn't know about Claude Code, I'm like, why not? So Claude Code and Cursor, in this case, is the IDE. I just uploaded that screenshot to ARL now, and today I have a nice new navigation bar at the very top. So this is a live demo, and you can see it does all the drop downs. All of the mobile stuff, like, oh yeah, you built the navigation bar, but it looks crappy on this device. Like a Samsung from 2017, it doesn't look good on. All of that stuff, completely sidestepped. Just built it. I just uploaded the screenshot. It built it in 2 minutes. Probably would have been a month, a few $1,000, back and forth, my time. Can't put a price on my time, right? So got that built in just a couple minutes. There are a lot of different applications to sales. I'm not a fan of the AI chat version. Like, oh, people can tell what I want and they're going to buy from an AI. I think that's insane for a lot of reasons. One of the things we do that we built at Red Bank Green and we started doing for Broad Street is that we built this tool called Daybreak, which is basically a lead form on steroids that you can run as an ad. And when people fill it out, it does a little information capture. And it sends the sales rep or the publisher, whoever it might be, an email, and it does some preliminary research, their social, all that kind of stuff. Companies known for don't want sales reps showing up not knowing anything about the company, although they'll try sometimes. And as part of my process, my sales process, they follow this cheat sheet, right? It's a list. It's got my 10 favorite questions to ask in a sales meeting. This cheat sheet is also in that downloads, that QR code thing. 80% of a sales conversation should be asking questions. Most people in sales, especially media sales, go in ready to pitch. As soon as there's any dead air in the conversation, they're like, well, let me tell you about us, right? If we just ask questions, master the art of asking questions, we can gather so much information. Because every single conversation that I'm going to have on a sales side, or every interview that we're going to do for editorial, is going to have my AI note taker running, capturing everything that I can. So I do a little background information, but there are some questions that are absolutely killer. Matt Cohen, obviously, great recommender of books. You recommended, was it They Ask, You Answer? Right? And I read this book and I was like, oh wait, I should be asking a lot of these questions in my sales conversations. One of the things that I ask my advertisers, hey, what are some things when people come here for the first time, they're just surprised to learn? Every business owner has them. You're talking to a professional, real estate agent, accountant, lawyer. You ever been at a backyard barbecue with somebody like that and then you're like, well, I actually have a question about my back pain right now and you're an orthopedic doctor, maybe you could help me out. Right? What are the questions you get a lot? So I capture all of those, I get their answers, and really importantly, I think, Mike, you said it, that brand, the tequila brand, they want to take over, they want to own San Diego. That's actually really high-level stuff. That's the emotional stuff. Like when you lean into that, that's what we call that at Broad Street, it's like the golden Y. Sometimes we call it the pink Lamborghini, but it's like the thing that is actually driving all of this. One of my highest spending advertisers is a dispensary. And I was like, if everything goes exactly the way you had hoped, where are you in 3 years? And she just kind of looked off and said, we're #1 in Red Bank. I'm like, that's it. I followed up for that proposal. I was like, let's make you #1 in Red Bank. But you've also had the experience where the person who sold the deal is a different person than the person who's fulfilling the deal. And we lost all of the conversation. Or like a new sales rep takes over and they have no context. That's why we capture it. We have all of that information. It all goes into the CRM. And once I get that information, I had a bagel shop, New Jersey, a lot of them. And he said, people had no idea that we have a great lunch business. Like we have outstanding sandwiches. The name of the place is Bagel Station. So I was like, we got to go get pictures of your food in front of everyone. People see, that's like, we should just let the pictures do the talking. And so we built this tool called Magic Spec that basically, given a URL, in this case it doesn't show the sandwiches, but given a URL, we'll go ahead and produce the spec, and right now you can give it a prompt too to go along with it. And I'll go ahead and pull that stuff. AI did that, easy. All right, editorial and creative. I'm doing an interview with that same dispensary. Actually, it was a product that David Arkin brought up, so a really good idea. His thing is like doing podcast-style interviews and then allowing the business to cut that up and use it on their social media. So I started doing that too. And I sat down with the dude who's running the dispensary, or the husband of the lady who's running the dispensary. And we put together a whole podcast interview where I just recorded it, the stuff we wanted to talk about, and then put together the agenda. And this is going to be our loose structure for our interview on Thursday. So I use Wave as a note taker. There's different note takers. There's the virtual ones, Fathom, Otter, Firefly. You've seen them on Zoom calls. And for my phone, I use Wave. So now we're getting into the shiny stuff. All right, we're in the execution of the business. Has anybody used Nano Banana? Got a couple? Did it blow your mind? Yeah. A couple things? So Nano Banana is an AI image generation, which 3 years ago, AI image generation was either non-existing, kind of broken, or produced cool stuff. It just didn't really make sense. But Nano Banana can do stuff like this. Take this dog and this person and put them in the same photo. That's insane. In fact, remember this thing? That little like laser? It actually started off as a stock photo that I found, and I said, make this laser more neon and cool, because I had to get it to match to be, and it said, okay, here we go. And then I took it one step further, because it also does video generation. I said, animate this photo. That's insane. So when we get into general automation, because a lot of things we want to reduce the amount of manual effort that we put into our businesses. General automation, I'm not going to go too far into because it gets a little heady, but you've heard no code. Things that your developer would normally have to build integrations between different things. We've probably all heard of Zapier, which is great for connecting different systems, right? N8N is like Zapier, but like built for AI. And what you can do is build these cool little flow charts that do almost anything, connect to almost any service. So stuff that your developer might think, okay, we're going to build an integration and build that from scratch. Just wait up. Could we do it with N8N? So I made a list. I know it's almost unreadable from back there, but I made a list that's in the Google Drive and of the different things. It's like, this is the stuff, a lot of which was cool like in the last couple of years. This is the stuff that all of like the AI influencers are all using right now. A lot of them have kind of like moved on from ChatGPT to Claude. They think the models are better. I actually like ChatGPT, but cool kids are using it. Whisper, Otter, Granola, N8N, Manus. All right, so Manus, you're like, what's Manus? Does anybody use Manus? All right, Manus, Latin for hands, I think, I'm assuming. All right, I asked Manus, think of AI that can actually do stuff for you in your browser. So you ever been on your website and you're like, we need to change that logo. Someone change that logo. We need to add a page that does this. Who's going to do that? Like, you know, you could do it. It's going to take you a few minutes, and then you're going to get distracted. So imagine you had something like ChatGPT, and you could say whatever you wanted to it. So in my case, I said, add a new page on Red Bank Green called Media Kit, and upload my Media Kit to it, embed the Media Kit. And then it took over my browser. It asked me for permission. I had to install a Chrome extension, and it took over my browser, logged into Red Bank Green, uploaded the Media Kit, and I'm just sitting there not doing anything and just watching it. You see why it's called hands. What's that? No, this is called Manus, M-A-N-U-S. So I'd say keep an eye on it because it's at that stage where it's not perfect. In fact, sometimes it sucks, right? But 3 years ago, a lot of the stuff that is almost perfect now sucked. So Manus, that was just acquired by Facebook, by the way. So there's going to be lots of resources into its development. All right, so now we're on to the A. Got through the execution of the company. Accountability. I'm not going to go into this one, but using Manus, using Zapier, using N8N. Does anybody have a scorecard at the company? Some of us have scorecards, especially if we're EOS companies. We might have a sales scorecard, a department scorecard. How many people did we reach out to? How many conversations did we have? How many led to a proposal? How many do we have that are closed? How many new customers? That's just like a sales scorecard. A lot of times, stuff like that is in HubSpot. But then our customer support scorecard is in Help Scout or Zendesk or something like that. But with Manus and AI, I can pull all of that automatically every week. So when we do our level 10 meeting to kick off that week, it's all there. Otherwise, it's someone's job. Have you ever had someone at your company who came to you and they said, do you have 5 minutes? And they have a problem they want to discuss? And then you talk to that person, and they talked for 15 minutes. 15 minutes. And at the end of that 15 minutes, you have no idea what it is that they wanted to talk about. They talked about like 10 different things. You're like, what is the actual problem? So I use something at Broadsheet and Red Bank Green called 131. Come to me with one problem, clearly defined, 3 possible solutions at least, and the one that you would recommend if I didn't exist and you had to do it yourself, right? But I was like, why couldn't there be like a 131 coach? Because you can tell somebody that, but then doing it is a little bit different. So I got a prompt. And this is also in that folder. It's basically, hey, you are a problem preparation coach. This is how you work. This is how 131 works. And I created a custom GPT. You can literally copy and paste this into a custom GPT. And your goal is to let someone brain dump via microphone and help them sort out what the core problem is, help coach them through possible solutions, and produce a document, just a little bit, just a little something outlining exactly what it is that they want to say prior to the meeting. So I said, basically I was using it as a user, and I said, I have an advertiser who's in print. I want to get them into digital. They say, oh, we have a social media person who does all that. And it's like, no, that's not what we do. What do I do now? And it helps me work through that. And it said, literally, it said, position the digital offering as a complementary. This is the one that I ended up picking, as a complementary to their existing media work, right? So one problem, clearly outlined, in this case, 4 possible things, and they can bring that into the meeting. It's great because it helps save everyone time, save them a little bit of frustration, and also help coach them. Because we all know, like, the best coaches in the world, they just ask amazing questions to bring that answer that they already knew was inside them, to bring it out, right? All right, so on the recognition side, this is the last part. But I know we all want our employees to be like these little machines, right? Producing output. We don't want anyone looking at their phone at work. We want them doing it. But in the people that are helping us get to, the crew on our ship that's helping us get to that bright future of dual transformation 3 years out. Have you ever had someone, a customer, tell you about how good of a job your team did or how wonderful of an experience it was working with you? When someone gives you a compliment, how does that make us feel? Usually pretty good. When ChatGPT gives me a compliment, I feel good. One of the best things that we can do for anybody, especially the people on their team, is give them some recognition. And we should be using the most powerful tool in the world to praise and recognize our team. So one of the things that I do during our State of the Company meetings, which is part of Traction, quarterly State of the Company, where the company was, where it's going. So I ask everybody in the team to, all my leadership team, I ask them, like, give me the shout outs for everybody on your individual teams. Send them to me in Slack. Then I take all of that and I put it into a text file or a document, and then I upload it to ChatGPT, and I say, go through each person and ask me questions about each person so I can just verbally dictate some highlights of my own. And then what I do is I produce a nice little document like this, separated by department, that just goes through all of the people, and there's a part. It's probably the best part of the State of the Company meeting. Last thing, we started this presentation with some authentic intelligence, and we're going to end it with some authentic intelligence. Next highest leverage thing you can do that requires some authentic intelligence is create a channel in Slack or Teams just called Good News. Because anybody have something like this? All right. Because at any given time in running a business, there are so many things that we have to contend with. The problems necessarily get elevated. Good stuff, it happens, but whoever gets the good stuff, they tend to pick it up and discard it. Sometimes it gets passed on. It's make sure the good stuff gets elevated, because that's great for the entire team. People can focus on things that aren't going so well. We all know people like this in life who seem to always focus on things that aren't going well. Or we can focus on the things that are going well. And this is the way that our teams can collectively focus on the things that are going well. And it's also great when you have that new hire and they hop on board, and that first day, the Good News channel is popping. Because they're like, all right, what did I sign up for? I'm not really sure. It seemed like we had a really good fit, but they don't know until they know. And when they see that Good News channel, it's magical. So you can see, like, I think this was just the other day. Someone commented about Lori. Got a whole bunch of people, a bunch of hearts, fires, all that kind of stuff. So that's how I think about clearing away all of that noise. So can we probably agree that what we talked about in this presentation, these are the things that actually matter? If we really get some clarity, if we really learn, if we share, if we make the best of our people on the team, because a company is just the people that compose it. It's not the project or idea, it's the people. That is the highest leverage stuff. In fact, you could argue that it's 10 times higher leverage. When I think about AI, I can't help but go back, like not to 2023, but literally beginning of time, literal biblical, let there be light. This idea of just sheer will, think it, and it becomes. And I can't help but think that it's like all of human endeavor in technology is about narrowing the gap between what we think and it becoming. And it makes it clear that we want to be clear as we possibly can be about what it is that we want to make sure that we actually get it.